Jake Morrison stood in the empty hallway outside the Galactic Council chambers. His hands shook, but not because he was scared. He was angry. More angry than he had ever been in his 50 years of life. Through the tall glass doors, he could see the alien representatives talking quietly among themselves. They were deciding the future of every human being alive. Lisa Hammond walked up beside him. She had been Earth's ambassador for 10 years. Her face looked tired and old, even though she was only 40. The stress of trying to protect humanity had worn her down. She carried a thick folder full of papers and data files. "They won't listen," she said quietly. "I've shown them everything. Our art, our music, our science. I've shown them how we help each other during disasters. I've shown them our hospitals, our schools, our charities. None of it matters to them." Jake looked at her folder. He knew what was inside. Pictures of human children laughing and playing, videos of doctors saving lives, records of human inventions that had made life better for everyone, stories of humans who had died protecting others, all the proof anyone should need that humans were good people. "What do the Altarians say?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "They say we're too dangerous. They keep talking about our wars, our violence. They won't hear about how we've grown, how we've changed. They only see what we used to be, not what we are now." The doors opened. A tall, blue-skinned Altarian walked out. His name was Council Leader Vex. He had been one of Earth's strongest supporters until 3 months ago. Now he wouldn't even look at the human representatives. "The vote will begin soon," Vex said. His voice sounded sad, but Jake could see he had already made up his mind. "Please understand, this is not about hatred. This is about safety. The safety of all civilized worlds." "Whose safety?" Jake asked. "We've been part of the galactic community for 15 years. When have we ever threatened anyone?" Vex finally looked at him. "Your people are unpredictable. You have emotions that cloud your judgment. You make decisions based on feelings instead of logic. The Zephirians have shown us a better way." Jake felt his anger grow. The Zephirians had been spreading lies about humans for months. They told stories about human violence and aggression. They showed old videos from Earth's dark past and pretended nothing had changed. They made humans sound like wild animals that needed to be caged. "The Zephirians want our planet," Lisa said. "They want our resources. This isn't about protecting anyone. This is about greed." "That is not true," Vex replied. "The Zephirians have promised to care for your people. You will have good homes, good food, good work. You will be safe and happy. But you will not be allowed to spread chaos through the galaxy." Ryan Phillips joined them in the hallway. He was a commander in Earth's small space navy. He had fought pirates and protected trade routes for years. His uniform had medals showing his service to the galactic community. "Commander Phillips," Vex nodded. "You are a good example of human potential. Under Zephirian guidance, more humans could become like you." "I became like this because I was free to choose," Ryan said. "Take away freedom and you kill the very thing you claim to admire." But Vex was already walking away. The vote would happen with or without human input. Inside the chambers, representatives from 47 different worlds sat in a great circle. Each had come to decide what should happen to humanity. The Zephirians had been talking to each group privately for weeks. They had offered trade deals, protection agreements, and valuable gifts. They had also made threats about what might happen if humans were allowed to remain free. Jake, Lisa, and Ryan took their seats in the center of the circle. They were allowed to watch, but not to speak. The decision about their entire species would be made without their voice. Chancellor Corax of the Zephirian Empire stood up. He was tall and thin with pale gray skin and bright yellow eyes. His voice was smooth and convincing. "Honored representatives," he began. "We are here to solve a difficult problem. Humans have great potential, but they are still young and dangerous. They need guidance to reach their full worth." He touched a control and holographic images appeared in the air. They showed human wars from centuries past. They showed weapons and violence and destruction. They did not show hospitals or schools or art or music. "This is what humans do when left alone," Corax said. "They fight. They destroy. They cannot control themselves. But we can help them. We can give them peaceful lives on beautiful worlds. We can teach them to be better. Lisa stood up. May I respond to these lies? Several representatives shook their heads. They had heard enough from humans. The decision was theirs to make now. One by one, the worlds voted. The Altarian Republic voted yes. The Centauri Federation voted yes. The Syrian Commonwealth voted yes. Every single world voted to support the Zephirian plan. The final vote was 47-0. Every alien civilization agreed that humans should be removed from Earth and placed under Zephirian control. Jake felt something break inside him. These people had been humanity's friends and allies. They had worked together, traded together, explored space together. And now they were selling humanity to the Zephirians without a second thought. The council has decided, announced the speaker. Earth will be evacuated. All humans will be relocated to suitable agricultural worlds under Zephirian supervision. This action will take place immediately. As they walked out of the chambers, Ryan pulled Jake and Lisa aside. His voice was very quiet. Kate Sullivan saw this coming, he said. She's been preparing for months. Not everyone will go to those agricultural worlds. Jake looked at him. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded Earth's deep space fleet. She was smart and tough and never gave up. What do you mean? Lisa asked. Some of us have been making plans, Ryan said. Hidden bases, secret research stations, safe places where humans can continue to grow and learn. The Zephirians think they're getting all of us. They're wrong. 3 days later, the Zephirian ships arrived at Earth. Huge vessels that blocked out the sun over every major city. They had brought thousands of transport ships to carry humans away. The Zephirians were polite and organized. They allowed families to stay together. They let people bring personal belongings. They promised that the new worlds would be beautiful and peaceful. Most humans had no choice but to go. But some, a very few, simply disappeared. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, and teachers vanished from the transport lists. The Zephirians assumed they were hiding and would be found later. They were wrong. Sam Carter was one of those who disappeared. He was a major in Earth's army and an expert in guerrilla warfare. As the transport ships lifted off with millions of humans aboard, he watched from a hidden bunker deep underground. This isn't the end, he said to his small team of volunteers. This is just the beginning. Above them, Earth grew quiet as its people were taken away. The Zephirians began their work, mining resources and setting up their own colonies. They thought they had won. They had no idea what was coming. In the hidden, bases scattered throughout human space, the real work was beginning. While most humans learned to farm on distant worlds, others continued the true human mission: to grow, to learn, to explore, and to remember what had been taken from them. 25 years would pass before the galaxy learned what a terrible mistake they had made. 25 years before they understood that caging humanity was like trying to hold lightning in a bottle. And when that day came, every world that had voted to enslave Earth would beg for forgiveness they might never receive. Sam Carter floated in the control room of Station Alpha, a secret base hidden inside a large asteroid. Outside the thick metal walls, space was cold and empty. No one knew this place existed except the humans who lived and worked here. 15. Years had passed since the Zephirians took Earth. To the rest of the galaxy, humans had become quiet farmers on distant worlds. They grew crops, raised animals, and lived simple lives under alien supervision. The Zephirians were proud of how well their plan had worked, but they were wrong. Sam looked at the data screen showing information from hundreds of human settlements across the galaxy. Every few months, someone would disappear from these farms. The Zephirians thought these people were dying from accidents or sickness. They never suspected that these humans were being secretly rescued and brought to hidden bases. "How many this month?" asked Carol Davis, the station's chief engineer. She had escaped from a farming world 3 years ago. Her skills with machines and computers made her very valuable to the resistance. 47 new arrivals, Sam replied. Nick found 12 scientists on Kepler Station. Amy brought back 15 engineers from the Vega colonies. The rest came from various agricultural worlds, Carol smiled. That brings our total population to over 3,000 people across all the hidden bases. The resistance had grown slowly and carefully. They could not take too many people at once, or the Zephirians would notice. They had to choose carefully, taking only those humans who had special skills or knowledge that would help the cause. Dr. Nick Roberts walked into the control room carrying a small device that glowed with blue light. He was one of Earth's best scientists before the invasion. Now he led the research teams that were unlocking the secrets of alien technology. "I've got good news and amazing news," he said with a big smile. "Which do you want first?" "Give us the good news," Sam said. "We've completely figured out how Zephirian engines work. We can now build ships that are faster than anything they have." Carol's eyes went wide. "That's the good news? What's the amazing news?" Nick held up the glowing device. "This is a quantum communicator. It works instantly across any distance. No matter how far apart we are, we can talk to each other immediately. And the best part is that no one can listen in or block the signal." Sam took the device and looked at it carefully. It was smaller than his hand but felt warm to the touch. "How many of these can you make?" "As many as we need," Nick said. "The materials are common. Any of our bases can build them." This changed everything. The resistance bases had been working alone, not knowing what the others were doing. Now they could coordinate their efforts across the entire galaxy. Amy Foster joined them from the research lab. She had been working on the quantum communicator project with Nick. Her specialty was physics, and she understood things that most people could not even imagine. "There's something else," she said quietly. "The quantum effect doesn't just work for communication. I think we can use it for transportation too. Imagine being able to move people in ships instantly from one place to another." "Like teleportation?" Carol asked. "Exactly. But we need more research and testing first." Jeff Turner entered the room wearing his training uniform. He was a former Earth military officer who now trained new resistance members. Every human who came to the bases learned basic combat skills, even the scientists and engineers. "The new arrivals are settling in well," he reported. "Most of them are angry about being lied to for so many years. They want to fight back against the Zephirians." "Good," Sam said. "But we're not ready yet. We need more people, more ships, more technology. The Zephirians still think we're just simple farmers. That's our biggest advantage. On the agricultural world of New Haven, humans worked in the fields under the warm sun. Zephirian supervisors watched them from comfortable buildings, making sure the work got done properly. Everything looked normal and peaceful. But in a barn at the edge of the settlement, something different was happening. Tom Bradley had been a teacher on Earth before the deportation. Now he grew wheat and corn like everyone else. But at night, he taught the children things the Zephirians did not want them to know: real history, advanced mathematics, science, and most importantly, the truth about what had happened to Earth. "Remember," he told a group of young humans gathered in the barn, "you are not just farmers. You are the children and grandchildren of explorers, inventors, and dreamers. That has not changed." A 12-year-old girl named Maria raised her hand. "Mr. Bradley, why don't we fight back? There are more of us than there are of them." Tom looked at her seriously. "Because fighting without a plan is just dying uselessly. Our people are preparing, but we must be smart about it. When the time comes, we will be ready." What Maria and the other children did not know was that Tom had a quantum communicator hidden in his house. Every night he received messages from the resistance bases and sent back information about conditions on the farming worlds. Meanwhile, on another world called Green Valley, humans had made an interesting discovery. The Zephirians had told them to grow a certain type of grain that was supposed to be very nutritious. But Dr. Linda Parks, who had been a biochemist on Earth, realized that this grain contained chemicals that made humans less aggressive and more obedient. She quietly began growing different crops and teaching other humans how to avoid the mind-controlling effects of the Zephirian food. She also sent this information to the resistance bases through her own hidden communicator. Back on Station Alpha, the research teams were making breakthrough after breakthrough. They had learned to build cloaking devices that made their ships invisible. They had developed new weapons that could disable enemy vessels without killing the crews. Most importantly, they had begun to understand something the Zephirians did not know about humans. Creativity was humanity's greatest strength. While other species followed rules and stuck to proven methods, humans constantly tried new ideas. Even under oppression, they found ways to adapt and innovate. Nick showed Sam a new type of ship they had designed. It was sleek and fast, with armor that could resist the strongest weapons. But it also had something no other species had ever thought to include: artistic decorations that served practical purposes. The patterns aren't just for looks, Nick explained. They're designed to confuse enemy sensors and make the ship harder to target. We combined art and engineering in ways that never occurred to the Zephirians. Carol had been working on a different project. She had figured out how to hack into Zephirian computer networks without being detected. This allowed the Resistance to monitor alien communications and learn about their plans. They're getting worried, she reported during a meeting. Some Zephirian commanders are starting to ask questions about the missing humans. They want to do a complete count of everyone on the agricultural worlds. How long do we have? Sam asked. Maybe 2 years before they figure out that thousands of people are gone. Sam nodded. Then we need to speed up our plans. Amy, how's the teleportation research going? I'm close to a breakthrough, Amy said. Give me 6 more months and I think we can transport small groups instantly across space. Jeff, can you train enough people to crew a fleet in 2 years? Jeff thought for a moment. If we bring in more recruits, yes. But we'll need ships for them to practice with. Nick and Carol, can you build a fleet of invisible ships in 2 years? They looked at each other and smiled. We already started, Carol said. We have construction facilities on 12 different asteroids. At current production rates, we'll have over 2,000 ships ready by then. Sam felt a mixture of excitement and fear. They were finally strong enough to challenge the Zephirians. But there would be no second chances. If they failed, humanity would be enslaved forever. Send a message to all the bases, he ordered. It's time to prepare for the next phase. The galaxy thought they had tamed humanity. They're about to learn how wrong they were. In hidden facilities throughout space, humans worked around the clock. They built ships, trained soldiers, and perfected technologies that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. The Zephirians continued to believe that humans were content with their simple lives on farming worlds. Soon, they would discover the truth. And when that day came, the oppressors would become the ones begging for mercy. Commander Zek of the Zephirian patrol ship Lightning Bolt was having the strangest week of his military career. 3 of his ships had simply vanished while on routine patrol near the outer colonies. Not destroyed, not damaged, just gone. He stood, on the bridge of his ship, looking at the empty space where the patrol vessel Thunderstrike should have been. His communications officer had lost contact with the ship 6 hours ago. There had been no distress signal, no sign of battle, nothing at all. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the surface of Kepler-7, his communications officer announced. Put it through, Zek ordered. The face of Captain Rask appeared on the main screen. Rask had been commanding Thunderstrike just hours before. Now he looked confused and tired. Commander, we need immediate pickup, Rask said. My entire crew is stranded on this planet. We have no idea how we got here. Where is your ship? Zek asked. Gone. We woke up in a field outside the main colony. No memory of landing, no memory of abandoning ship. Our ship has completely disappeared. Zek felt a cold fear in his stomach. This was the same story he had heard from the crews of the other missing ships. They would wake up on random planets, unharmed but with no ships and no memory of what had happened to them. Sir, his sensor operator called out, I'm detecting some kind of energy signature at the edge of the system. Very faint, but it's moving toward us. On screen, Zek ordered. The main display showed empty space, but the sensors clearly detected something large approaching their position. Whatever it was remained completely invisible to their eyes and cameras. Red alert. All weapons powered and ready, Zek commanded. Suddenly, space around them filled with ships. Hundreds of sleek vessels, appeared from nowhere surrounding the Zephirian patrol fleet. They were unlike anything Zek had ever seen. Smooth, graceful, and covered with beautiful patterns that seemed to shift and change as he watched. "This is Admiral Lisa Wells of the Human Liberation Fleet," a voice said over the communication system. "Commander Zek, you and your crews will not be harmed. Power down your weapons and prepare to abandon your ships." Zek's hands shook as he reached for the communications controls. Human Liberation Fleet. That's impossible. Humans are farmers on agricultural worlds. "Not all of us," Lisa replied. "You have exactly 1 minute to comply before we disable your ships for you." Zek looked around his bridge. His crew stared at him, waiting for orders. He had 30 ships under his command, but he was surrounded by hundreds of human vessels that had appeared from nowhere. "Stand down weapons," he ordered quietly. "Prepare to abandon ship." 20 minutes later, Zek and his entire fleet found themselves on the surface of a nearby planet, watching their ships disappear into empty space. The humans had been polite and professional, but they had also been absolutely unstoppable. On Station Alpha, Sam Carter received reports from human commanders across the galaxy. The first phase of their plan was working perfectly. Zephirian patrol fleets were being captured and their crews safely deposited on inhabited worlds. The aliens were unharmed but confused, and most importantly, they had no ships to report back to their commanders. "How many ships have we taken?" Carol asked. "Over 300 in the last 2 weeks, Sam replied. "We're targeting the smaller patrol groups first. The Zephirians still don't understand what's happening to them." Amy Foster walked into the command center with a big smile on her face. Her teleportation research had finally paid off. Human ships could now appear and disappear instantly anywhere in the galaxy. "The quantum transportation system is working perfectly," she reported. "We can move entire fleets from one star system to another in seconds. The Zephirians have no way to track us or predict where we'll appear next." Meanwhile, on the agricultural world of New Eden, Dan Murphy was preparing for the most important mission of his life. He was a colonel in the secret human army, and today he would lead the liberation of his first farming colony. The Zephirian supervisors on New Eden had no idea what was coming. They had grown comfortable over the years, treating the humans like obedient pets who caused no trouble. The daily routine was always the same. Humans worked in the fields, Zephirians watched from their comfortable buildings, and everyone went to sleep peacefully at night. But tonight would be different. At exactly midnight, human ships appeared silently in the sky above New Eden. They were completely invisible to Zephirian sensors, but every human on the planet could see the beautiful patterns painted on their hulls. Dan's voice echoed from speakers hidden throughout the colony. "Attention, all humans. This is Colonel Dan Murphy of the Liberation Fleet. You are no longer prisoners. We are here to offer you a choice." Tom Bradley, the teacher who had been secretly educating human children, stepped out of his house and looked up at the ships. After 20 years of waiting, freedom had finally arrived. "You can return to Earth if you wish," Dan continued. "Our homeworld has been restored and is ready to welcome you back. Or you can join us in the Liberation Fleet and help free other humans throughout the galaxy. The choice is yours." The Zephirian supervisors ran from their buildings trying to understand what was happening, but human soldiers were already waiting for them. The aliens were quickly surrounded and disarmed without violence. "You will not be harmed," Dan announced to the confused Zephirians. "But your authority over humans is finished. Forever." Most humans on New Eden chose to join the Liberation Fleet. They had spent 2 decades learning to hate their captivity, and now they wanted to help free others. Only the very old and very young returned to Earth. Maria, the girl who had asked Tom Bradley about fighting back, was now 32 years old. She had become a leader among the younger humans on New Eden. When the ships landed to pick up new recruits, she was among the first to volunteer. "I want to be a soldier," she told the recruitment officer. "I want to make the Zephirians pay for what they did to us." "We don't fight for revenge," the officer replied. "We fight for freedom. Can you understand the difference?" Maria thought. For a moment. "Yes, revenge is about the past. Freedom is about the future. Within 3 months, the human liberation forces had freed dozens of agricultural worlds. Thousands of humans joined the fleet, while others returned to Earth to help rebuild their homeworld. The Zephirians were starting to panic. On the Zephirian homeworld of Zephr Prime, High Chancellor Corax called an emergency meeting of his military commanders. He was the same alien who had convinced the Galactic Council to enslave humanity 25 years earlier. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence reports said humans were simple farmers with no technology or weapons." Admiral Vorth, his top military officer, looked embarrassed and frightened. "We have lost over 500 ships in the past month. Our patrol fleets are being captured faster than we can replace them. And we still have no idea how the humans are doing it." "What? About their ships? Can we track them?" "No, sir. They appear from nowhere, complete their missions, and vanish again. Our sensors cannot detect them when they're cloaked." Corax slammed his fist on the table. 25 years ago, these creatures could barely leave their own planet. Now they have technology that makes our forces look primitive. How did this happen? But none of his commanders could answer that question. They had never bothered to really study humans during the years of captivity. They had assumed that removing human freedom would also remove human creativity and innovation. They had been terribly wrong. The breakthrough moment came when human ships appeared simultaneously around Zephr Prime itself. 3,000 vessels materialized in perfect formation around the Zephirian homeworld. Every defense station, every orbital platform, every military facility was suddenly surrounded. Admiral Lisa Wells, now commanding the entire human fleet, sent a message to the planet below. "People of Zephr Prime, this is the Human Liberation Fleet. For 25 years you held our people as prisoners. You stole our world and scattered our families across the galaxy. Today that ends." The humans did not attack the planet or harm civilians. Instead, they began systematically shutting down Zephirian technology. Power plants stopped working. Communication networks went offline. Transportation systems failed, all without firing a single shot. Within hours, the mighty Zephirian Empire found itself helpless and blind, surrounded by the very people they had thought they had tamed forever. Chancellor Corax stood at his office window, looking up at the human ships that filled the sky. After 25 years of believing he had solved the human problem, he finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. The humans had not been broken by captivity. They had been forged by it into something stronger than anyone in the galaxy had ever imagined. The fall of the Zephirian Empire sent shockwaves across the entire galaxy. News traveled fast through alien communication networks. Within days, every major civilization knew that humans had returned to power in a way no one had expected. On the blue ocean world of Altair, Council leader Vex sat in his private office reading reports that made his blood run cold. The same humans he had voted to enslave 25 years ago now controlled the most advanced fleet anyone had ever seen. They had defeated the Zephirians without killing a single person, which somehow made them even more terrifying. "Sir?" His aide entered the room nervously. "The Council is asking what we should do about the human situation." Vex looked out his window at the peaceful blue seas of his homeworld. Those same seas might soon be filled with human ships if he made the wrong decision. "Send a message to Earth," he said quietly. "Request a meeting with their leaders. We need to apologize." Ambassador Paul Young stood in the ruins of what used to be the Altarian embassy on Earth. The building had been destroyed during the Zephirian invasion and never rebuilt. Now weeds grew through the broken concrete and metal. The Altarian delegation that came to meet him looked nervous and scared. These were some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, but they acted like children who had been caught doing something wrong. "Ambassador Young," said Foreign Minister Traal, the leader of their group, "we come to Earth with deep regret for our past actions. We were deceived by Zephirian lies about human nature." Paul looked at him with cold eyes. "You were not deceived. You were afraid. There's a difference." "Please understand our position," Traal continued. 25 years ago, humans seemed dangerous and unpredictable. We thought we were protecting the galaxy. From what? Paul asked. From our art? From our music? From our science? Lisa Hammond showed you everything good about humanity, and you chose to ignore it. Minister Trowell's blue skin turned darker, which meant he was embarrassed. We made a mistake. We want to make it right. The Altarian Republic offers full trade agreements with Earth. We offer shared technology and mutual defense pacts. Paul smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. 25 years ago, we offered you friendship. You chose to cage us instead. Now that we're strong enough to cage you, suddenly you want to be friends. Why should we believe you've really changed? The Altarian delegation had no good answer for that question. On the crystal cities of Centauri Prime, the Federation Council was having an emergency meeting. They had ruled over dozens of star systems for thousands of years, but now they felt small and powerless. Secretary of State Chris Baker arrived at their capital city in a simple human transport ship. The Centaurians had expected a massive fleet to announce humanity's power. Instead, they got one man in one ship, which was somehow more impressive. The Centaurian leaders met him in their grandest hall, surrounded by floating crystals that sang beautiful music. Their leader, Prime Minister Zelak, wore robes that sparkled with embedded jewels. Secretary Baker, Zelak said with his most diplomatic voice. The Centauri Federation deeply regrets the unfortunate events of the past. We were misled by incomplete information about human intentions. Chris listened politely while looking around the beautiful hall. This is a lovely place, much nicer than the agricultural worlds where you sent our people to work as slaves. They were not slaves, Zelak protested. They were protected citizens living safe lives. Without freedom, without choice, without hope, Chris replied. What would you call that? The Prime Minister's crystal skin changed colors, showing his nervousness. We offer full membership in the Centauri Federation. Humans would have equal rights with all member species. We would share our most advanced technologies. Chris shook his head. You're not offering us equality. You're offering us bribes to forget what you did. The same fear that made you imprison us now makes you want us as allies. What do you want from us? Zelak asked desperately. We want you to prove that you've actually learned something, Chris answered. Words are easy, actions are harder. The Syrian Commonwealth tried a different approach. They sent their most famous scientist, Dr. Keth, to meet with Earth's Minister of Alien Affairs, Dr. Janet Hill. Dr. Keth had won dozens of scientific prizes and was respected throughout the galaxy. He thought his reputation would help him negotiate with the humans. Dr. Hill, he said when they met in Earth's capital city. As a fellow scientist, surely you understand that we acted based on the best information available at the time. Janet looked at him with tired eyes. She had spent years documenting every lie the aliens had told about humanity. Dr. Keth, you had access to all of our scientific papers. You could have seen our medical research, our environmental protection efforts, our space exploration projects. Instead, you chose to believe Zephirian propaganda. Science requires careful analysis, Dr. Keth replied. We could not risk the safety of the galaxy based on hope. But you could risk the freedom of an entire species based on fear, Janet shot back. That's not science. That's prejudice disguised as logic. Dr. Keth offered to share Syrian research on faster-than-light travel, advanced medicine, and energy production. He promised that humans would have full access to their universities and research facilities. Why now? Janet asked. What's different about us today compared to 25 years ago? Dr. Keth hesitated. You have proven your capabilities. We're the same people we always were, Janet said. The only thing that's changed is that now you're afraid of us instead of looking down on us. One by one, the great powers of the galaxy came to Earth with offers and apologies. The Vegan Union promised to help rebuild human colonies. The Rigel Confederation offered permanent seats on their ruling council. The Andromedan Alliance wanted to form a military partnership, but every conversation ended the same way. The aliens were not sorry for what they had done. They were sorry that humans were now strong enough to do something about it. Dr. Janet Hill kept detailed records of every meeting. She noted how the aliens' attitudes had changed completely. Before, they had talked about humans like dangerous animals that needed to be controlled. Now they talked about humans like powerful allies that needed to be courted. They don't understand the real problem, she told her staff during a meeting. They think this is about power and fear. They don't realize this is about trust. Meanwhile, human ships continued to patrol the galaxy. They did not attack or threaten anyone, but their presence was felt everywhere. Trade routes that had been controlled by aliens for centuries were now watched by human vessels. The humans were not cruel or aggressive. They actually helped when pirates attacked merchant ships or when natural disasters struck inhabited worlds. But they also made it clear that the old order was over. Young aliens who had grown up during the years of human captivity were especially confused. They had been taught that humans were primitive and dangerous. Now they saw human ships that were more advanced than anything their own species had built. On the mining world of Kepler Station, a young Altarian engineer named Flux met a human technical officer named Steve Williams. Flux had many questions about human technology. "How did you build ships that can become invisible?" Flux asked. Steve smiled. "We learned from watching how you built your ships. Then we found ways to make them better. But our technology is thousands of years old and proven reliable. Reliable, yes, but not creative. You build things the same way your ancestors did. We build things the way they could be." This conversation happened thousands of times across the galaxy. Young aliens meeting humans and discovering that everything they had been taught was wrong. The alien governments became more desperate as months passed. Some tried to form new alliances to resist human influence. Others attempted to offer bigger and better deals. A few even threatened to go to war if humans did not accept their apologies. But humans had learned patience during their years of captivity. They did not rush into new agreements with civilizations that had proven untrustworthy. They did not accept apologies that were motivated by fear rather than genuine regret. Instead, they waited and watched. They helped when help was needed, and stayed away when it was not. They showed the galaxy what they had always been. People who wanted to explore, create, and build better lives for everyone. The aliens who had voted to enslave humanity were learning a hard lesson. Forgiveness could not be demanded or bought. It had to be earned through long years of changed behavior and proven trustworthiness, and humans had all the time in the galaxy to wait and see who was really sorry and who was just afraid. 3 years had passed since humanity's return to power. The galaxy looked very different now. Human ships patrolled trade routes that had been controlled by aliens for thousands of years. Human technology had made space travel faster and safer for everyone. But the relationships between humans and other species remained complicated. President Kevin Walsh stood before the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers on Earth. The old building had been destroyed during the Zephirian invasion, but the new one was bigger and more beautiful. Representatives from 47 alien civilizations sat in a great circle, but this time they had come to Earth instead of summoning humans to them. Kevin looked at each delegation carefully. These were the same species that had voted to enslave humanity 25 years ago. Now they sat quietly, waiting to hear what he would say about their future. "You have asked for forgiveness," Kevin began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "You have offered trade deals, technology, sharing, and military alliances. You have promised that you understand your mistakes and will never repeat them." The alien representatives nodded eagerly. They had spent 3 years making these promises and offers. "But forgiveness is not something that can be given like a gift," Kevin continued. "It must be earned through actions, not words. And earning, it will take more than trade agreements or technology sharing." Council Leader Vex of the Altarian Republic shifted nervously in his seat. "What do you require of us, President Walsh?" Kevin activated a holographic display that showed a detailed plan. "Every species that supported our enslavement will spend the next 50 years under human guidance, not as prisoners, but as students." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. 50 years seemed impossible to many of the aliens. 50 years is too long, protested Prime Minister Zalak of the Centauri Federation. "Our civilizations are thousands of years old. We have much to teach as well as learn." And that attitude, Kevin replied calmly, is exactly why you need 50 years of education. Dr. Frank Lewis, humanity's chief negotiator, stood up to explain the details. He had spent months working out this plan with human experts and a few alien allies who had refused to support the enslavement. You will not be prisoners, Frank said. You will not lose your freedom or your worlds. But you will have human teachers and advisors in your governments, schools, and military forces. You will learn what we learned during our captivity. What is that? Asked Dr. Keth of the Syrian Commonwealth. That strength without wisdom is tyranny, Frank answered. That true civilization means protecting the vulnerable, not controlling them. That diversity of thought leads to better solutions than forced conformity. The plan was comprehensive. Human teachers would work in alien schools, showing children how to think creatively and solve problems in new ways. Human advisors would help alien governments make decisions that considered the rights of minority groups and weaker species. Most importantly, aliens would learn the human principle that no species had the right to control another, no matter how good their intentions might be. Some alien civilizations immediately rejected these terms. The Andromedan Alliance declared that they would rather fight than submit to human oversight. The Rigel Confederation tried to form a military alliance to resist human influence, but they quickly discovered that other species were not interested in fighting humanity. The humans had proven they could defeat anyone without killing them. More importantly, human technology had made life better for everyone who cooperated with them. Trade was faster and safer under human protection. Diseases that had plagued alien worlds for centuries were being cured by human medical advances. Even basic transportation had improved thanks to human innovations. The species that submitted to human guidance found themselves changing in unexpected ways. On Altair Prime, human teacher Mary Johnson worked with young Altarian students who had never been encouraged to ask questions or think independently. "Why do we do things this way?" asked a student named Zol during a science class. Mary smiled. "That's an excellent question. Why do you think we do things this way?" Zol had never been asked to give his own opinion before. Altarian education had always been about memorizing facts and following rules. I think there might be a better way." "Then let's figure out what that better way might be," Mary said. This kind of teaching was happening on dozens of worlds. Human educators were not replacing alien knowledge, but they were teaching aliens to question, experiment, and innovate in ways they had never done before. On Centauri Prime, human advisor Robert Greene worked with the Federation Council to reform their legal system. For thousands of years, the Centaurians had made laws based on tradition and the wishes of powerful leaders. "What about the rights of species that don't have representatives on the council?" Robert asked during a session. Prime Minister Zelak looked confused. "They do not need representation. We make decisions that are best for everyone." "How do you know what's best for them if you never ask them?" Robert replied. It was a simple question, but it changed everything. The Centaurians had never considered that their subjects might have different needs and wants than their rulers. The process was not always smooth. Many aliens resented having to learn from the species they had once controlled. Some tried to resist the changes or ignore their human advisors. But the humans had learned patience during their years of captivity. They did not force quick changes or punish resistance. Instead, they demonstrated better ways of doing things and let the results speak for themselves. Dr. Janet Hill documented the progress on each world. After 2 years of human guidance, alien societies were becoming more creative, more fair, and more innovative. Crime rates dropped as people felt they had more opportunities. Scientific advancement accelerated as researchers were encouraged to try new approaches. Most importantly, the relationships between different alien species began to improve. Humans taught them to see diversity as a strength rather than a threat. "The amazing thing," Janet wrote in her report, "is that they're not becoming more like humans. They're becoming better versions of themselves. Not every species accepted human guidance. The Andromedan Alliance and several smaller civilizations chose to remain independent rather than submit to human oversight. Humans did not punish them for this choice, but they also did not receive the benefits of human protection and technology. Over time, the difference became obvious. The species working with humans were prospering and growing. The independent species were falling behind technologically and economically. Young aliens especially noticed the difference. They could see that their friends on human-guided worlds had more opportunities, better education, and brighter futures. On the 10th anniversary of humanity's return to power, Kevin Walsh stood once again before the Galactic Council. But this time, many of the alien representatives looked different. They seemed more confident, more creative, and more hopeful than they had before. "We have learned much in these 10 years," said Council Leader Vex, who was now an old Altarian. "We have learned that strength comes from protecting others, not controlling them. We have learned that different ideas make us stronger, not weaker. And we have learned," added Prime Minister Zalak, "that the species we once feared as dangerous was actually the teacher we needed all along." Kevin nodded. "You have 40 more years to continue learning. Some of you may earn our complete trust before then. Others may need the full 50 years. But every species that truly commits to change will eventually be welcomed as a full partner in the galactic community." The galaxy that was emerging from this process was unlike anything that had existed before. It was more just, more creative, and more peaceful than the old order had ever been. But it came at a price that could never be fully repaid. The trust that had been broken when fear overcame wisdom in the council chambers 25 years earlier would take generations to fully rebuild. Captain Jake Morrison, now an old man with gray hair and tired eyes, watched the proceedings from the observer section. He remembered standing in these same chambers decades ago, helpless as the galaxy voted to enslave his people. Now he watched alien leaders asking humans for guidance and wisdom. The species that had once called humans too dangerous to be free were now learning from those same humans how to build a better civilization. Justice had been served, but it was not the justice of revenge. It was the justice of growth, learning, and redemption earned through long years of changed behavior and proven commitment to something better. The galaxy had betrayed humanity once. Whether they would ever be trusted again depended on what they did with the second chance they had been given.